All Things Good podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the All Things Good podcast. I'm your coach and your host, Giovanna Cirillo. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast that helps you with mental health, self-development, and your overall wellness, helping you become the greatest version of yourself. Today, I'm excited to be discussing the importance of laughter and the topic of laughter intelligence with our lovely guest, Marla Simlett, who is also known as the Marvelous Marla. She is a speaker, an MC, and a registered clinical counselor who helps people learn and laugh their way to becoming their greatest selves. She created Laughter Intelligence, a framework for unlocking trust, wellness, and lasting change. Known for her insight, humor, and heart, she empowers people to show up fully and thrive in work and in life. Off stage, you will find her biking around Vancouver, baking allergy-friendly treats, or treasure hunting for thrifted finds. Compliment her outfit, and she'll be sure to tell you just what a bargain it was. So excited about today's topic because, as many of you know, I love laughing. I love joking around. I love being in that playful spirit. So help me by welcoming Marla. Welcome, Marla. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks, Giovanna. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to learn about laughter intelligence. I was just telling my listeners how I love laughing. Like it is my and sometimes I laugh in the most inappropriate times. But it's just part of my like the way I was created, I guess.
Yeah,
But thank you so much for, coming to bless us with your intelligence on laughter. I'm excited about it.
thanks. I'm so happy to be here, and I love to hear that laughter. It sounds like it's a big part of your life and something that you're using already, which is part of the laughter intelligence framework.
Awesome. Okay, so what is laughter intelligence and what inspired you to create this framework?
Yeah. So I think I'll talk about inspiration first, just quickly. Um, I've always loved to laugh, loved to make people laugh. When I was a kid, I wanted to be two things, which was a counselor and a stand-up comedian. And it took me a while to get to the counselor part, and I am a therapist now. I have a private practice. The stand-up comedian piece, I it took a little while, but I've done a little bit of that as well. But as I was going more fully into figuring out what I wanted to do with my act three of my life, because I retired from my corporate career, I
Okay.
knew that it had to be around these two passions that I had. So helping people learn and grow is so important to me, especially women, helping them unstick their stuck, get past their blocks, like step into that position of power and strength so that, I truly believe that if this world is going to get better, the women have to be in the lead. And so helping them get to that point.
Yes.
Um, and I've seen, similar to, I think probably you have, the power that laughter can have to open people up, to break down resistance, to open up thinking, to connect people, to build trust. And so that idea of helping people heal with humor, or with, I prefer to talk about laughter because it's not the input, it's the output,
Mm-hmm.
that helps it. Um, Became my passion. And so that's what I work with clients around that. I speak about that. And now I have a new podcast, as I mentioned, that is focused on that. So that's where the inspiration comes from, is helping people learn and grow with this one tool,
Mm-hmm.
that I feel is really beneficial and underutilized.
Yes, definitely. And I agree. And you're mentioning about helping women in leadership, and women are the way that we can improve, right? As a nation, as a state, as just humanity.
Hmm.
But part of being in your feminine is laughing. It's being
Yes.
playful, it's being joyful. So I love how
Yeah.
you are using this in a way that women might not even really realize how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people think laughter is just entertainment or humor.
Yeah.
So, but you describe it as an actual intelligence and healing. So, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So my intention is helping people build their laughter intelligence, which I've defined as harnessing laughter intentionally. Because you're right, we think of it as, it's an accident, it happens, it's great when it happens, and we like to laugh, but it's like a spontaneous thing as opposed to actually harnessing it in a way that is useful and that we can use it. And so the basis of laughter intelligence is how do we build up that our knowledge of laughter and our use of laughter in order to improve our own lives and then have that ripple effect, like the pebble in the pond, because once we move into that space of change and positivity and more creativity, that ripples out to the people around us and hopefully starts, as my podcast is called, a laughter revolution,
Mhm.
and helping to change people and change the world. So for laughter intelligence, I've built a framework which is called the SMILE framework, which works really well. And it has a 5-step kind of process of how you learn about laughter. So it's study, map, identify, leverage, and then expand. Because
Okay.
I feel as though those are the pieces you need to do to get yourself in a place where you're understanding the mechanics of laughter, why we have laughter, that evolutionary piece. Knowing your own laughter signature, that I like to call it, you need to know what makes you laugh. How do you make people laugh? You need to know more about how you use it already. You
Okay.
need to identify blocks that keep you from using it. And there can
Mm,
be lots of those, right? Sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's, you think you have to be a stand-up comedian to use laughter and you don't, because
right.
it's not so much about making people laugh. It's being able to harness that energy where you can. I talk about
Mhm.
this a lot with managers saying, you don't have to be the stand-up comedian in your team to make people laugh, to use that. You can find tools to help you do that. You can also, I mean, as a manager, your job is to curate your team. Find the
Right.
person on the team who's that is their strength and use
Mm,
that to kind of build it. So identifying the blocks, and then leveraging laughter. So figuring out places in your life where people are stuck, where you're stuck, and bringing laughter in a way that helps reduce defensiveness, increase more openness, increase creativity, shift perceptions and mindset. And then the E of expand is, once you're doing that in your own life, then becoming kind of an ambassador for doing that out
mm.
into the world and sharing that skill and that tool with other people.
I love that. I love that. So, can you break that down again? So, S is for what again? I'm sorry.
So studying
Study.
laughter, and we can't expect people to use something if they don't know why it's helpful. And there's actually, the study of laughter is called, I always get this wrong, gelotology, which is not
Oh,
about jello.
wow.
But it was coined by someone in, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but people have been studying laughter for 30, 40 years, and the physical benefits, the emotional benefits, the mental health benefits, all of those
Right.
things. So knowing a little bit more about where laughter has come from is really important. So that's the study. Then
Study.
we have the map, which is
Map.
mapping your own laughter signature. So knowing more about how you laugh, what makes you laugh, what kind of humor you like, how you make other people laugh, and what that's like in your life.
Hmm.
Identifying what the blocks are for you.
Okay.
And as a therapist, I'm always encouraging people to go into a bit of the deeper work. Doesn't have to be that deep, but just knowing why you're not using it,
Right.
leveraging it. So learning skills and techniques and places and people you can leverage it with, and then expand.
Expand. Okay, awesome. That is so, so beautiful. I feel like everyone should have this in part of their like coaching practice or anything. Like, that's so good. I'm gonna
Yeah.
connect with you after this.
Awesome. I love it.
So, was there a personal moment in your life where you realized laughter had a deeper power than most people understand?
I think it's interesting. I just talked about this in my first episode of my podcast. I went through what I call my 3 years of yuck,
Mm.
just in starting into the pandemic, where my husband had a huge medical crisis that lasted for 3 years.
Wow.
um, My dad died unexpectedly. It was
Mm.
in the midst of COVID. It was, and then I developed, I've always been prone to anxiety, but I developed a full-on anxiety disorder with panic attacks and OCD behavior because my system was just trying to manage everything that was
Right.
outside of my control. Um, and it culminated, I think, where the point was that started this awareness for me. I tell the washer guy story where I had a guy come in the midst of this full-on COVID where we still didn't know how it was spreading and how it was, and he had to come in to replace the washing machine. My husband was in the hospital, things were just at a lowest point, and he took his mask off. And my anxiety around, just everything, when he left, I started freaking out. Like I had fans going everywhere and I had bleach and I was cleaning and at one point I tripped over a fan cord and I landed on the floor and I had bleach all over the place.
Oh
And
my
I just
gosh.
started to laugh because it just, it was ridiculous. And I think it was part of just needing to release some of that anxiety and some of that.
Right.
But as I was telling that story to a friend a couple days later, and I, when I tell stories, I build them up to make them funny. So I was exaggerating a little bit, but she's like, Marla, that's probably why you're so resilient because you always find the funny. Like you always are
Mm.
laughing. You always are able to shift the perspective and it lightens. And I started thinking about that and thinking about how I had actually been using humor and laughter throughout my life to manage things. And I thought, yeah, there's something here.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I freaking love that. Because I intentionally look for things to laugh at. Like when I'm like
Yeah,
upset or stressed, I'm like, you know what? Let me find something that's hilarious, some comedian or something that's just funny. And I love to program my algorithm to show things that are funny. So because I mean we
nice.
have so much around us that, like you said, is out of our control. So
Yeah.
much anger, so much, I mean, there's war, there's chaos outside of us, but we can't forget to just laugh sometimes. So I can just
Yeah.
like I'm very visionary. I'm a big visionary, so I just imagine you on the floor like just cracking up like
Yeah, it was a low moment and it was a high moment.
that's so funny.
But I
Okay.
love that what you're talking about is that you already are mapping your laughter signature, right? Like you already know what makes you laugh, and you've moved
Hmm.
into the leveraging of you have that awareness that when I'm feeling stressed, when I'm feeling low, that is what's going to help me come out
Right.
of that a little bit. So
Right.
I mean, I suspect you've got some pretty good laughter intelligence already.
I need to implement it at work because I can't find a reason to laugh at work. So maybe I need to implement
Uh,
this at work.
Yeah. Yeah. Many people need to implement it at work. And I say, we spend so much time in the workplace.
Hmm.
It's too much time to not have fun.
Right.
And there's
Right.
ways to bring fun into the workplace that then just makes it a better place to be. There's actually two researchers, they are Stanford researchers, two women, and they have a book called Humor Seriously. And they actually teach a course at Stanford, an MBA course. One of the courses they teach within the MBA program is teaching MBA students how to bring laughter into the workplace
Oh,
and
wow.
and the research behind how it increases creativity, it increases trust, it increases the trust not only amongst a team but with the leader themselves. It's a
Right.
great book if anyone is interested in reading it. Really funny, really easy to read, and yeah, it's the push to bring more laughter in the workplace is a big one right now.
Yeah. So as a clinical counselor, how would you suggest our day-to-day, how to implement day-to-day things to increase our laughter intelligence?
Yeah. I mean, the start, I think, is what you're doing is finding the laughter, finding the giggles
Hmm.
wherever you can and often. And so people keep a gratitude journal
Mm.
often, and that's great. In some ways, the feeling and the energy of laughter is a lot like gratitude. Like it's positive
Right.
and it's, you feel it kind of in the same place. But I encourage people to take that another step further and maybe have a laughter journal. So, what made you laugh? Because what you focus on expands, right?
Right.
So, if
Right.
you have the intent going out in your day that I'm going to find things that are ridiculous or funny or however you you find laughter, I'm going to intentionally look for those things because I'm going to need to write them down in my journal at the end of the day. You're going to start seeing things more often. And it starts
Mm.
to shift your perspective because what you focus on expands. I call I call that the red fire hydrant syndrome because I walked out of my apartment one day. I've lived here for 12 years. I walked out one day and I saw this fire hydrant. And I'm like, my husband, has that fire hydrant always been there? He's like, yes, Marla. But then once I noticed that red fire hydrant, I started seeing them everywhere. And I was like, it's like the city had a sale on fire hydrants and they stocked up, like they've put them everywhere. But it wasn't that they were new. It's now that I was focused on it, I was seeing them, right?
Right,
And that happens everywhere. That's our
right,
way our brains are wired. So if you're focusing on humor, you're focusing on the funny, you're going to see that everywhere.
right. I love that. And oh, you know what I often see? And bringing back to my childhood, me and my cousin, we used to like fake laugh and then we will just bust out cracking up. I mean, like it will start out fake and then eventually we end up laughing for real.
Yeah.
So what do you think that creates in the brain?
Yeah. And I'm just going to note how quickly that happens, right?
Yes.
And that's what laughter yoga is based on, right? Getting the benefits of
Mm,
laughter, and you don't have to have anything funny.
mm,
Um, and just your question, like what that creates in the brain, our brains are good at a lot of things. They're not that smart in a lot of cases because they can't differentiate between what's real and what
true.
isn't. So if you're starting that generation of the generating laughter, it will turn real really, really quickly. Partly because
Mm,
your brain doesn't recognize, and so it's going to give the same benefits. Also because laughter is one of the two automatic responses we have that is contagious.
right.
So like a yawn, if I yawn, you're going to yawn. If I
Hmm.
laugh pretty quickly, you're going to laugh as well.
Right,
And
right.
you can do that yourself. I talk about I talk about my IgG that I was born with. I suspect you were born with it as well,
What is that?
an internal giggle generator.
Yes.
So you can laugh even when nothing's funny, turn it on, turn it off.
Hmm.
If I'm doing that myself, and I have done that myself sometimes, I've found myself caught in a spiral of negativity or just, and I will say, wait a minute, and I will start to laugh. And
Okay.
that energy is just enough to bring me back to, because when you're in that stress mode, you're getting no oxygen to your brain or not enough. So
Mm,
you're not in a clear thinking mode and your body's, ready for the fight or flight or so you need to laughter. The research shows it lowers those stress hormones. So bringing that laughter in, but if you're doing that then with another person or with a group, it's contagious and it spreads.
right.
I was emceeing an event a couple weeks ago, and I did a segment on laughter intelligence, and we did a laughter meditation, which is basically kind of centering and getting into space and then starting that laughter. And it was hilarious. There was snorting, and some people's laughs were really funny, so it encouraged other people's
Right.
laughs. And yeah, it's just so much fun.
That's hilarious. And I'm thinking because I'm like, so again, visionary. So you're like, you're having all this stress, and then all of a sudden you stop and you're like, ha 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 ha. Oh, I'm sorry, but that's
Well,
that's
I say to people, maybe not do it out in public the first time if
right.
you're.
Oh my gosh, wait, don't make me because I'm about to tear up. That's how funny it is. OMG. Whew, okay, that's hilarious. Because also I'm thinking, okay, sorry guys,
Yeah,
but this is the point of the podcast, right? I'm
exactly.
thinking of when people are upset. So when people are upset, they might be upset and then they laugh and they're like like oh they like they start laughing, but like in a way that is like you got the wrong one type of thing. What does that mean?
What do you mean?
So let's say, for instance, if someone gets upset, right? And they're upset about something, but then they actually start laughing because of how upset they
Ah,
are. What does that
yeah,
mean? Is that just like the
yeah.
brain saying, okay, we need to like chill out, or is it something that we should be careful for?
That's an interesting question. So the reason to be careful for it would be if people thought it was inappropriate,
Okay.
maybe,
Okay.
right? I don't think, I mean, I think there's sometimes it's the example I gave you, the washer guy story, when I'm laying on the floor. Yes, it was funny, but I think the first burst of laughter was more just the stress and anxiety needed
Right.
some release. And so that's how it started to come up. And then it was just, hilarity.
Okay. Okay.
So often people laugh when they're nervous, they laugh when they're uncomfortable. I
Hmm.
think in some ways, because laughter, there's a lot of theories that the evolution of laughter is it was designed because we don't get things in our everything has a reason. We weren't designed with extra parts or extra,
Right.
as humans. And that social bonding piece, the laughter has come in to help us connect, to help us um, tell people that they can trust us, or to find out
Right.
if we can trust other people. So I think some of that nervous laughter, or maybe what might be termed inappropriate laughter. I was laughing over my mother's deathbed. I mean, we sat with her for days waiting for her to pass, and it was so hard and so stressful. And that laughter gave us a release of
Okay.
that,
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I would encourage never be ashamed of laughing. Um, somebody else might try to shame you for it, but you can say
Right.
no, thank you to that. But it's your body's response, and our body's automatic responses are information for us, right?
Right. Right.
And something that we can tune into, and it's doing it for a reason.
I love that. Ah, so good. This has been so good so far. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that when we're stressed and there's so much going around us, we don't get a lot of oxygen to the brain, excuse me. Um,
Hmm.
but obviously laughter does that. What else can laughter do to the brain and the body?
Yeah. So laughter reduces our stress hormones, so the cortisol and the adrenaline that comes in with stress. Laughter also releases oxytocin. I always
Hmm.
sometimes I say oxycontin, and that's a completely different thing. Oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone.
Hmm.
So, and it's also actually the hormone that babies get when they're breastfeeding with their mom. So it's a bonding
Oh,
hormone as well. So
awesome.
you've got this reduction of the feeling bad hormones or feeling stressed, and you've got this increase in the feeling good hormones. So having those flood in your body is healthier. So the benefits, like I'll go back to the benefits. So that's happening because you're open up, you're breathing, the oxygen is going to your brain more so you can think more clearly. Because when we're in stress, it's like a hijack, right? Like we're not thinking
Right.
as clearly as we can. You also, because of that social bonding piece, you're building trust with someone. It's making you feel safer. It's like you're saying, there's one theory, it might be a bit tongue in cheek, but some researchers um, were saying that perhaps like social bonding for apes and for monkeys is picking nits off each other, right? And
Okay.
they were saying they think that with humans, our laughter is actually nitpicking because it's the way that we
Mm,
connect, it's the way that we socially bond with each other. So I love that image of when we're making people laugh, we're picking nits off them. But it's a way of connecting together and then feeling safe.
right.
So you're in this place of, and I'm going to finish my sentence. In this place of more positivity, you can think more clearly. When you think more clearly, there's more room for creativity, there's more room for other ideas to come in. And there's this sense of kind of relief and release, I like to call it. So you're feeling more relaxed, you're feeling more open. And for me
Mm,
as a therapist, that's the place we need to get in to then actually be able to make change. Because
right.
if we're trying to work on an issue or work on a problem and we're so caught up in the stress of it or the fear of it, or there's no room for other ways of thinking.
Right. Why do you think so many people find it hard to be playful, like adults? Obviously, kids don't find that
Yeah.
find it hard, but as adults, we grow up and we lose our playfulness, we lose our imagination, we lose our ability to find humor in things. Why do you think that happens?
Yeah. It's interesting. They say kids laugh 300 times a day
Oh,
and
wow.
adults laugh like, I can't remember the number, but something like 10 to 30.
Mm,
Um, I think, it's playfulness is for kids,
mm,
right? That's kind of the mindset. And also, there's a lot of cultural things. Different cultures have different perspectives around that. But I
right,
think in North America, you get to a certain point and play is just silly. It's not serious. It's not you get into a workplace and a lot of times there's no room for that because it's a waste of time,
right.
right? And when really, I mean, if you've ever been in a meeting where it's just going around and no one's getting anywhere, if you throw some humor in there, if you throw, I talk about abs, which is absurd brainstorming sessions. If you start a session with just throwing out all the craziness and getting in the creativity that's going to come in is going to be, beyond measure. And so have you wasted that time? I don't think
Mm,
so. You got a team that trusts each other. I don't think so. So I think we just lose that ability because it doesn't feel adult.
mm,
And things as an adult feel heavy and they are heavy. We've got a lot of stuff going on in our personal lives, whatever's going on for you in the world.
right.
Um, and laughter may seem like just not something that's valuable or and play or a waste of time or um, yeah,
Yeah. I often get told that I put like I laugh a lot. And but I'm like, well, why not? Everybody is so serious. Like, why not, bring that? It's almost like an icebreaker. When there's strong
hmm,
tension in the room and it's like everyone can feel it, why not but bust a jokey joke? Like, crack a
yeah,
joke and lighten up the mood because my God, like again, we're
yeah,
so serious. Everything is just so performative, structured,
yeah.
disciplined, but where's the playfulness? Like there has to be a healthy balance.
Yeah. And that's exactly like when I talk about the energy of laughter, I use that example because everybody has been in a room or a situation where and you can feel it, right? The
Mm-hmm.
energy is so heavy and somebody makes a joke, and you can feel it lighten, you can feel it lift. And that's leveraging laughter right there. So
Mm.
you're doing that. Um, I was going to say something else, but left my head.
No problem. So, okay, so how does laughter reduce resistance and defensiveness in healing conversations? And then after that, I have another question because a lot of people feel that laughter is almost like an escapism to avoiding conversations, like deep conversations.
Yeah.
So, the first question. So, how does it reduce resistance and defensiveness, excuse me, in healing conversations?
Yeah. So again, you're feeling more open, you're feeling more relaxed, you're feeling less threatened. There's trust building and you're bonding through laughter.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best example I can give, my husband and I use laughter a lot in our relationship.
Oh, I love
And
that.
anyone who's in a relationship knows, or hopefully like you get into these positions, right? And conversations escalate and all of a sudden they've got nothing to do. I mean, if you've got some awareness around what's happening. I always describe it as you get into these arguments and it's your two 5-year-olds or whatever age they are healing their wounding, right? Like and
Mm-hmm.
going back and forth. And you need to get out of that to have productive conversations, to have healing conversations, and to be able to help your relationship move forward. So one of the first ways my husband and I started using laughter is there'd be times when one of us would walk in the door after a hard day of work, dripping yuck, and you know one of us would say something and the other one would, or, give kind of a harsh response because
Mm-hmm.
of the way they were feeling. And it would escalate because that person then would feel hurt or triggered. And then all of a sudden, you've got this escalation of negativity and conversation. What we started doing is when that happens, the person who's come in the door will back up, making the noise of a backup truck. Beep, 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 beep. Go out the door, close it, and stand there for a minute and then come back in with a friend like, hey, how you doing? And that makes us laugh. Every time we do it, it makes us laugh. And that resets the energy. And
Mm,
sometimes we need to talk about what's happened, and then we're in a more relaxed, loving place to be able to do that. Other
right,
times we don't even need to talk about, we've realized I've been inappropriate, or and sometimes an
right,
apology comes or whatever. But I think that's the place between people. That's where that healing, how laughter comes in to help with that healing.
I
I
agree.
also find it very useful in working on our own personal growth. I bring laughter a lot into my own work as a client of counseling and the other kind of personal growth stuff that I do. I find the funny in what's happening, so I don't take it too seriously,
Right,
and it helps me not feel as much at odds with myself and a little more open to what's actually happening here.
right, right, right. And I use that method a lot. I play around a lot, even on my podcast episodes. I'm always joking around, but I'm not going to deny who I am. Just because we have deep healing conversations doesn't mean that we cannot laugh. And so the whole
Yeah.
like goal for all things good is to bring humor, but to also bring healing. And that's why
Yes.
when I saw your submission, I was like, this is perfect. This is so
Yeah.
perfect. And it aligns with what this platform stands for.
Yeah. We're on the
So
same mission, my friend.
yes, 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 yes. But
Yeah.
okay, so well, what about the ones who avoid who use humor to avoid pain?
Yeah.
What about that?
Give me an example of where you've seen that.
So let's say, for instance, we're having a conversation. Let's say, for instance, okay, so a lot of mental health conversations are coming up now, right? And sometimes
Mhm.
people find themselves opening up, right? Um, and then during that moment of vulnerability, another person may laugh because they don't want to expose their vulnerability. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they use laughter as avoidance instead of confrontation or vulnerability.
Yeah.
So,
So
I
using it
mean,
as a deflection.
yeah, like they're not using it to open up. Do you know like how we can change that? How people, can address situations like that?
Yeah. Well, I always say, so if it's someone else doing that, we can't change anyone.
Mm,
You
true.
know, you might bring it to their attention. Hey, I notice, whenever I start to get more vulnerable, you laugh and make a joke. And did you know that you're doing that? It's always coming in with curiosity. I always like
Mm.
to talk about, putting on your scientist hat and being curious about what's that about? Like, do you even know that you're doing it? Whether or
Right.
not that person's able to engage in that conversation will determine how far that conversation can go. But it would be a really interesting one if they were able to do that. I think mapping your laughter signature, so the M part of the smile framework, if it's you that's using deflecting laughter, like someone brings up something and you're like, well, that's,
Right.
that's nothing, or that was just a joke, or, somebody said the other day, if somebody starts something out with, that was just a joke, or you're taking it too seriously, there's a problem, right?
Mm.
But if it's yourself who's using it, gaining that self-awareness of when am I using it, right? And how is that stopping the processing that I need to do, the change that I might want to make, the relationships that I want to build,
Right.
because it's developed as a defense mechanism, right? And any of our defense mechanisms developed for a reason, and they
Hmm.
were very adaptive when usually as kids, right? We develop them to keep
Right.
ourselves safe, to keep ourselves connected, to keep the peace in some cases. And so if that's a behavior that is getting in your way, and you need to do a little bit of that deeper work to shift it. And laughter is not going to solve all of our problems, unfortunately.
Right.
I'd love it if it would. I would then bottle it up and I'd sell it, and it'd be awesome.
Right.
I give it away. I'd only sell it to the people who could afford it. Um, but we do need to do the deeper work. And my premise of laughter intelligence and of the smile framework and the work that I do is that laughter is the reset button to put you in a place where you can do some of that deeper work and make it easier. We often think that doing that deeper work is just going to be a slog and it's going to be so hard. And yes, it can be, but we can bring the lightness into it and we can make it more fun. And
Right.
that's the key, I believe.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I definitely agree. Um, I've seen it so much around me in my communities, and it's just like at one point it's like, okay, I love laughing, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty, like what's really happening. You know what I mean? Avoidance
Yeah.
is, like you said, we come up with those defensiveness at a young age. But I love how the way you're stating it is that laughter can shift the stories and the narratives of people that they've carried from about themselves from childhood. And
Yeah.
so, what are some other ways that laughter does that?
One of the things, so it, like a specific technique,
I
is that
mean, yeah,
the,
anything you
yeah.
have.
One of the things I like to do is when I identify a part or an inner child piece or I call them little ones, somebody who's coming up when um, when something happens. So my husband says something, I get triggered. I try to imagine how old that little girl is and stuff like that. And then I don't want to
Mm,
make her wrong, right? We often
right.
bring shame in. Oh, I shouldn't feel that way, or I shouldn't have acted that way. And so bringing in that compassion and gentleness. And then I like to kind of personify that piece. So I give them names, there's Kathy Catastrophe, who comes in like, oh God, everything is going to be horrible and it's going to be, and I talk to her like, hey, Kathy, it's okay, and so it's not so much it's bringing the lightness of laughter in. And sometimes I laugh about it and like, oh, Kathy, really? Are we going to be doing that? And
Right.
or kind of playing little games with it, like helping, is it really that bad? Like, what is that and that going to happen? And I get a little ridiculous, which just tickles my own funny bone, but it lightens the seriousness of it and gives me something that I can work with that's a little more respectful to myself
Mm,
and gentle and fun.
right, right. I love that you mentioned not dishonoring your, that voice or that inner child, but changing it because a lot of the times we
Yeah,
feel like we can use humor to dishonor what took place. And it's not like we're denying it or avoiding it or trying to overlook it. We're just trying to shift it into a different
yeah,
perspective so that we can come into this, this integration of healthiness and love and laughter and light.
yeah,
Um, so how does laughter help people become more creative, open-minded, and emotionally free?
yeah. For me, laughter is that it's letting down your defenses. It's so that relaxation that you're not in that threat mode. And when you think about people who are stuck in negativity or who are stuck in a mindset, and granted, again, we can't change everybody's mind. People are who they are and they think what they think. Um, but as you're relaxing out of that threat mode because you're bringing laughter in, you're bringing in more positivity, what you focus on expands, it gives you the space to see things more differently. I've got a great story for that, actually, if I can share. A
Yeah.
girlfriend and I were on a road trip down into the States years and years ago. And it was hot. We were in her car that didn't have air conditioning. We'd been driving for hours that we were miserable. And so we're driving along and we come up behind this car. And I look at the license plate and the license plate says wet woo. And I'm like, wet woo? Why the hell would anybody put wet woo on their license plate? I felt myself starting to imagine all these like these people are stupid and like what the and just this because I was in this negative space.
Right.
So just so we're continuing to drive along and still behind this car. And about 5 minutes later, I went, oh, we too. It was WETWO. And that was this shift in perspective. And Linda and I, my friend, started to laugh, like
Oh
how like
my goodness.
and then there was a more so brought a lightness to the way we were feeling in the car and in this situation. But I noticed it also shift because I was no longer thinking these people are stupid. I'm thinking, oh, isn't that smart? Isn't that cute? Right?
Right.
So it shifted my perspective of
Mm.
them because I'd made up stories about them, as well as shifting the energy in the car I'm in. So I often talk about we tooing your wet woo. So shifting your perspective and laughter helping with that because you're more
Yes.
relaxed.
Yes. I love that. Such a good like takeaway from that because like just the other day, excuse me, I was parking my car and thank God there was no one behind me, right? But well, I thought I parked the car. I shut the car off and my car starts rolling down the hill.
Oh
My one of my
no.
legs are outside of the door. And I'm like, and I had coffee in my hands, and I'm like, oh my God. So I quickly shifted into park and I start cracking up. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm like, did anybody see that? And they're like, no. And then some guys are like, well, that could have ended badly. I'm like, but it didn't. But it didn't.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
a
know,
great analogy you can
yeah,
use. You were rolling backwards and you shifted into park,
right.
right?
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's real good.
Yeah, you take that. You can use that one.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, again, like just implementing it into every workspace, home, I mean, everything,
Yeah,
it can definitely shift the atmosphere. I often do that with my daughter as well. Mother-daughter situations can get tense.
yeah,
I'm asking, she's not doing, right? And so there's a shift in the atmosphere. And so what I do is I like come up with something like a joke or something to kind of shift the mood because I'm more of that type of person. She's more on the like serious side. Not that she doesn't laugh, but I'm the one that takes the initiative to kind of lighten the mood because I don't
yeah,
want to create that tension. I don't want our home to feel uncomfortable. I don't want it to feel like, there's, chaos or just no openness between us. So I'm often the one to be the bigger person, even if I'm not the wrong person, right? Yeah, she's like my daughter. She's
yeah,
like my sister sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh.
yeah.
Like, but I love that I have that. Like, that's something that I actually lost for a while was my ability to
Mm,
play around. I was in
mm,
a very religious, rigid, almost environment. And whenever I wanted to play or say, or, have fun, do whatever, they were like, oh, you don't take things serious, such and such. And I'm like, okay. But once I disconnected from that rigidness, I began to embrace my playfulness again, my joy, my
nice.
light. And I was like, you know what? I love this about me. Like, I love that I
Yeah.
can play. I love that I can joke around. I mean, don't get me, I work hard. I'm a hard worker. And when I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But at the same time, there's a time to play, right? And so I always said, like, I will never dishonor that part or detach from that part again because it makes me who I am. And those who
Hmm.
like that will attract to me, and those who don't will just, go on and with their serious lives.
Yeah. And what a gift that is that you bring out into the world, right? And you're right. Some people, it's not their cup of tea, and that's sad for them,
Right, right,
you know, because that joy is a light and a beacon, right? For
right.
those people who want that. It's interesting what you said too, with people saying, you don't take things seriously, and that's that when you ask like, why do people stop playing? That is it in a nutshell.
Mm,
And what came to me is that play is very serious business. Like I started my career as an early childhood educator, so I studied like childhood development,
mm,
and play itself is the way that kids learn to be adults. It's the way
right,
they learn, they play house, they play, it's the way they learn to interact. It's not all fun and games. It's a
right,
way to learn and teach. And when we bring play into our adult lives, it is also there as a way to learn and teach and to keep that light, to keep that shine, to keep that
mm,
spark that kids have that they, some of them, a lot of them, most of us lose along the way as we get into the
right.
seriousness of being an adult. I have a colleague, I belong to an association down in the States called the not American anymore, the Association of Applied Therapeutic Humor. And it's international group from people around the world who are researchers and medical professionals and yoga instructors and clowns and anyone who uses laughter and humor as a way as part of their work.
Okay.
I'm actually going down there in San Diego next week for a conference with that. But
Awesome.
there's a man there that I know, Patrick, who teaches Lego to corporations, like using Lego and
Oh,
building
wow.
things with Lego as a way to influence the corporate culture and influence the way that companies work together and team building and all those things. So,
Right.
bringing play into the workplace is huge.
I agree. And also when you were talking, I was thinking about Esther Hicks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her book or her work, but she talks a lot about manifestation and creating the life
Mhm.
that you want. And she says the majority for you to like the only way or the main way for you to do that is living in that place of that, like, that energy where you're happy, where you're
Yeah,
joyful.
yeah,
And when you are joyful is when you begin to attract the things that you want because
yeah,
there's a energetic field, so to speak, that leaves room for good things to come.
yeah.
And
And what you
so
focus on expands.
and what you focus on expands. Exactly. That was why I mentioned it because you mentioned that earlier. So it's like
Yeah,
having that joy and having that laughter and that lightheartedness can begin to open up so much within our world, but we have to allow it and we have to be intentional.
yes,
It's not
yes,
just a funny moment. Let's create it. Let's, like you're saying, like, let's create this moment in our lives. It doesn't have to be from the outside, it can be from within. So I
yeah.
love the work that you stand. I love it. I love it. It's
Thank you.
inspirational.
Thank you very much. Can I say one thing just to
Yeah.
add on to that? You talked about, you're not waiting for the external to give it to you. There's so much agency in that, right? And so much of us taking back control. I don't have to
Mm,
wait for something to be funny. I don't have to wait for positivity to come to me. I am
right.
going to make that happen. I'm going to make the life that I want happen. I'm going to reclaim my spark or whatever that looks like for you.
Hmm.
That is power,
Right.
right? That is a
Right.
place of strength and where I think both of us hope we can help bring more people to.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, so good. Now, do you believe that joy can be a form of resilience?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, resilience is the ability to bounce back, right? In
Mm,
whatever way that looks. And I don't think there's any of us on this earth that haven't had something or will have something that is really, really difficult happen.
right.
And resilience is your ability to go through that and not be lost in it and come out the other side with the learning, the opportunities, the the wisdom that comes from that. And joy, I mean, resilience is something we build up. I often talk about, you don't wait for something big to happen and then hope that you've got it. It's something
Mm,
that you build over time and in little pieces along the way. And so important to recognize your own resilience and how you build that, whether it's your support systems or you know, bringing in people to help you or whatever. But cultivating joy and positivity in your life is like building a wall of resilience. So I
mm,
don't know if that's the right analogy, but for me, it's like you're building this space around you that even though stuff out here is going to happen, your core strength is not going to be rocked. And
mm,
when I had this experience, my 3 years of yuck with my husband and my dad, my anxiety and stuff, I was amazed some days at how steady I felt, even in the unsteadiness, because I've
mm,
spent years cultivating joy and positivity and laughter and that core sense of myself as someone who's strong, that I was able to come out of that. And it took a while and it was hard work, but stronger,
right.
right? And then with the evidence that when bad things happen again, because they will, or hard things happen again, I know I'll make it through.
Right. I
And
love
so
that.
joy is kind of like the building block,
Hmm.
the lighter fluid, right? To keep that flame going.
Right, right, right. I love that because to our listeners, I want our listeners to understand that the humor is not an escape. It's a bridge, like you stated. It's a bridge to connect you to your healing, to connect you to your best life, to connect you to lightheartedness, love, fun, and everything that you want in your life. I mean, she went through the death of her dad, and I do, my condolences for that. You had COVID, your husband was sick, and joy got you through that. It
Mhm.
wasn't hard faith, even though maybe joy brought the faith, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not just one thing. It's like you said, it's a building block. So along with joy was faith, was love, was perseverance, was all these things to keep you sustained
Yeah.
and to keep going. So so beautiful. I love it. I hope our listeners are listening and just like finding a way. So okay, quick. To wrap this up, and then we're gonna go into the soul snacks. To wrap
Ooh.
this up, what can our listeners do today, wherever they are, whether they're listening at work, home? What can they do today, right now, to begin to create a life or to tap into that laughter intelligence?
Yeah. I mean, I think I always think the first step is to kind of figure out what makes you laugh. So how you can, if you want to be able to access that laughter in those moments, you have to know what it is. So figuring out, is it a certain comedian? Is it, goats jumping on trampolines, videos? Is it, do you have IgG? Can you generate your own laughter? Right?
Hmm.
When you need it. And just start to think about that. Start to think about laughter as a tool and how are you using that tool now? And how can you have it in your toolbox? So that, like
Hmm.
you say, you're having a bad day. Oh, I'm going to go watch a funny video. I'm going to call my friend who always makes me laugh. Um, and then the second piece of that is starting to gain that awareness. Like pay attention to the shift in that. Pay attention to
Hmm.
how laughter shifts the energy in a room, or how somebody said a joke or somebody brought in some giggles, it changed how you thought. So
Right.
just starting to gain some of that awareness, I think is the first step always.
Yeah, I love that. And do something silly. Like, oh my God, like
Yeah. Oh
loosen
my
up,
God, life is too
shake.
short to not do things that are silly.
Like when I'm at work, now that I think about it, when I'm at work, I talk about work a lot because it's like the time where obviously we spend the most time and
Mhm.
where I'm like mostly not happy. I mean, yeah, mostly like I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of here, right? But there's times that I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do something to shift my mood. So I'll like put on music and then I'll just dance crazy. I'll just be
Yeah.
like, just let loose and I will crack myself up. I tell people this all the time. Like I crack myself up. And I'm like, it is not to be, and I might not make anybody else laugh, but I make myself laugh, and that's good enough, right? So
That's the start.
I will
That's the
dance crazy. Like
start.
I'll do something silly because there's so much, at the desk, hunchback, and doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, I just need to let go and be free. And so
Yeah.
find something silly to do,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. And I would add to that that kind of the next step in the smile framework, the identify. If you have listeners who are listening right now and thinking, well, I'm not going to do that. Like I did, okay, that's information for you, right?
Mm,
Why does
hmm,
being silly trigger you? Why
mm,
does doing something, even in the privacy of your own home, feel like such a block for you?
right,
Because there's so much information in that, and if you want to have that experience of being a little bit looser and playing and being able to bring laughter in, it has to start with knowing why you can't. And
right,
sometimes I often say you can not believe in something, or you can feel afraid and do it anyway. So
right.
just try it, see what happens.
Yes, such good
But
information.
yeah.
This has been so good, Marla. I want to transition to
Yeah.
the soul snacks. I like the soul snacks
I didn't
because
know
it's
there was going to be snacks. I'm so excited.
I try to put them in every episode. I'm not always successful with it. But okay, so I don't know why I can't say the word soul snacks. It's pretty much the first thing that comes to mind is to kind of lighten up the mood, even though our whole conversation was full of light and laughter. But I want to see your responses to these questions. So,
Oh, cool. Okay.
what is something that instantly puts you in a good mood
That should come right off the top of my
besides your
head.
IgG?
Yes. Instantly puts me in a good mood. Making my husband laugh.
Okay,
So if I
I
can make
like
him
that.
laugh, I'm in a good mood. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I also, I would add to just, I was going to say anything ridiculous. I love ridiculousness. So if I see something that's just kind of ridiculous, it puts me in a good mood. Like
Okay.
a dog in a sidecar of a bike with goggles on, puts me in a good mood.
I love it. I love it. What food, like when you're having a bad day, and I'm not using this as gluttony, guys, like listen up. Food tends to kind of like, do something to us spiritually,
Yeah,
emotionally.
yeah.
So when you're having a bad day, and I know that you are almost a pro at shifting your days, but is there a particular food that will instantly put you in a good mood?
Yeah. There's a bakery, gluten-free, dairy-free. I have some dietary issues, and they make the best donuts. The Epicurean in
Mm,
Vancouver, if anyone's looking for them. And they make such good donuts. So that would shift my mood.
I love that. I love that. Okay, I actually love I'm not a big donut person, but I do treat myself every now and then. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm in the process of losing weight, and I go to this place to get coffee, and their donuts, like they smell so good, but I'm like,
Mm.
no, I won't sit in. They're like, every time I come in, they're like, "Are you gonna get a donut today?" No, I will not.
But thank you for asking.
Right. But I take my time and I make them laugh too. Like we'll sit there and we'll have a conversation after like, because you can tell they're working hard. And then I'll
Yeah,
just talk with them and, lighten up the mood. It's just like, I don't know, it's just something that I do. So, okay,
I
anyways,
love it.
what movie makes you laugh the hardest?
The movie, I haven't watched it in a number of years, but the movie that made me laugh the hardest was an old one, A Fish Called Wanda, with Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline.
I've
The
never seen
first
it.
time I watched that, oh God, it's hilarious. Just hilarious. Kevin Kline was part of Monty Python. And so it's got some of those characters, some people from that in there as well. So, and it's probably from the 90s, but it's
Okay.
hilarious.
I love that. I'm not a big movie person, so I can't really answer that question. And the movies that I watch are particularly like like war movies or superhero movies like Marvel. So they're not really funny. So I can't really
I
answer
can
that
give a
one.
shout out too to the great Canadian series Schitt's Creek, which it is the funniest. I mean, no, it's not just Canadian funny. It's Dan Levy and Eugene Levy and the great late Catherine O'Hara, and Annie Murray. And it is hilarious. There's 6 seasons. I've probably watched it 4 times because the level of genius of these actors is something else.
What is the name of it?
Schitt's Creek,
Okay.
Schitt apostrophe S Creek.
Okay. All right. I'll have to watch that. I'll have to
Yeah.
watch that.
You have to get through the first episode is a little bit but once you get it and it's heartfelt, like it's
Okay.
also just a feel good, but so funny.
Yeah, the first episodes are always usually tough. I can say for shows, I like Friends, and there's
Uh,
another show that I like that is so freaking hilarious, but I can't remember it. I'll have to. It's about a girl that moves in with a whole bunch of guys.
oh, the new girl.
The New Girl. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that
with
show is so
Zoe
funny.
Deschanel, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
I
funny
love
too.
that show. So those are the two shows that really make me laugh. Movie, I don't know a movie that has done that for me just yet. But this has been awesome, Marla. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. How can our listeners find you? How can they connect with you? Tell us about your program, your practice, and I think you said you do yoga laughter.
Laughter meditations.
Laughter meditation.
Yeah, I don't do laughter yoga. So I'd love people to check out my website, marlasimlett.com, and they can subscribe to my newsletter, which is the Laughter Revolution Digest, which is a piece of my new podcast, Laughter Revolution podcast, which is on all your streaming podcast platforms now, and that's recently been launched. Um, yeah, and I'd love to hear if anyone has any questions or comments or thoughts. They can email me through my website and or check me out on Instagram. I'm all
I
over the
love that.
place.
And then, okay, so for our coaches and those who are in that field, do you
Hmm.
have something that they can kind of utilize, like a resource or something that they can get information from, like so that they can begin to implement that into their practice? Or is it coming?
It's coming. I don't have anything particular like that. I have a laughter intelligence self-assessment actually on my website. If you
Okay.
subscribe to my newsletter, there's a link there. And that I think is interesting for people to do because it gets you started thinking about where am I at right now with my laughter intelligence and how can I start building on that? So that might be a place to start just because I think if you're going to coach around laughter, you have to know about your own
Yeah,
relationship with it to start with, right? So,
right.
yeah, if you go on my website, marlasimba.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and that free resource is there for anyone who wants it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marla. I'll be sure to put that
Yeah,
information into the episode description. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. Look, I know the world is chaotic. I mean, there's a lot going on that we're not going to talk about because I'm sure you talk about it enough. That's not what
yeah.
this podcast is about. Do something silly, do something fun, be the light and the laughter or for yourself first, and then allow that to spread to those around you. Get your IGG, your inner giggle generator.
Generator. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Find a reason to laugh, make yourself laugh, but find out what makes you laugh. Like, this is
Yeah.
like the self-improvement um journey is amazing. Like, because you get to learn who you are. You get to learn the things that you like and you don't like. So, I mean, if you've learned anything today, learn yourself so that you can learn how to laugh again. Because listen, without laughter, then what are we really? We're miserable. We're miserable
Why are
people.
we even here? This has been great.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much for
Marla.
having me on.
No problem. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I'm your coach and your host. And thank you again, Marla, for your presence and your wisdom. I will
Thank
talk to you
you.
soon. Goodbye.